Hey, lovers. Welcome to the Book Lovers Club, the podcast where we celebrate Black Sapphic love stories, one book at a time. I'm your host, Joy, a married lesbian, lifelong book lover, and relational communication scholar. Here, we don't just read the romance, we learn from it. I believe that love stories can do more than just entertain us. They can teach us how to love better, how to see ourselves more clearly, and how to create the love life of our dreams. Each week, I'll dive into sapphic stories written for us and by us, while weaving in personal insights and communication lessons you can take off the page. So grab your drink, get cozy, and let's turn the page together. Welcome to the club. Hey, book lovers, welcome back to another episode of the Book Lovers Club. I hope that y'all are having a great start to your weekend, sending you all the good vibes. We got some great news. Gary, Indiana finally has power back. So, if you listen to my last episode, I talked a little bit about the tornadoes and the weather that hit the Midwest, especially Chicago and parts of Indiana. So, Gary, Indiana has been without power this entire time since those storms. So, it's something that we've been monitoring and checking, and I'm just so glad that they are finally getting some resolution. But times are changing, y'all, and people are dealing with so many things that you just may not know, and just the way that the weather patterns have changed and the impacts to the Midwest and to other parts of the country. Just, I don't know. This is something that I'm always talking about and thinking about. I low key thought about going back to school for environmental science, but I ended up on a Reddit thread with other environmental scientists, and they were just talking about how they struggle with mental health and depression because of all the patterns and things that they've been seeing, and just the things that people are doing to the planet and the changes with our climate. I don't know. I was like, "Oh, y'all dealing with depression? Like that's a lot." And then a lot of the funding and programs and things have been cut. But this is something I'm very interested in, and that has nothing to do with this podcast. Okay. One thing about me, baby, I am going to yap. That has nothing to do with this podcast because we're here to talk about books. But I'm so happy to hear that Gary, Indiana has power now. So I hope that people who have been struggling find some relief. I don't know if I even have any listeners in Gary, Indiana, but just know that I've been here rooting for you, and my heart goes out to you because it really could have been any of us. One of my mother's friends, her daughter's house got hit by the storm 3 times. This weather, the tornadoes, the storms, you just never know when your luck could turn and it could be your home or your car that a tree falls on. You just never know. So I am keeping everybody in my thoughts and prayers, all right? But back to what we were here for. I never quite got into it to even get back to it, but hey, we are here to talk about Black Sapphic books. And today I will be talking about our August book picks. So, the books that we've been reading this month are Tethered by TJ Williams and A Queen's Paradise by T Unique. I enjoyed A Queen's Paradise so much that I definitely signed up to get the ARC. So I was selected and approved to be an ARC reader for T Unique. So I will be reading A Queen's Ruin. So once that comes out and I start reading, y'all know I will be letting y'all know how I feel. But if the first book is any indicator, I already know that I am going to enjoy the second book. And I listened to the audiobook for Tethered by TJ Williams, and I've been talking about that all month because I am a fan. I am a fan of the narrator. I enjoy her voice, the accent. It really does it for me. And I've been doing an immersive read for Tethered. So I've been listening to the audiobook while reading the ebook, and I've been getting my life. Okay, but I enjoyed both books this month. I really did. So I hope that you are caught up on these books because this episode will contain spoilers. And if you do not want to hear any spoilers about these books, then you should probably come back and listen to this episode once you finish reading them. okay? Because I'm not going to hold back today. I will be going in. But I've been talking about both of these books a little bit all month. So, you know, we've been yapping already, but I really want to like just unpack the books today. But before I go into the book discussion, did y'all see the latest book drama? Okay, it's been some book drama. It's always some book drama. I take a couple of days off from threads and I come back and it's all kinds of book drama that I missed. Okay. So the latest book drama involves my girl, Jaquel J. Okay, so Podium Entertainment, they collaborated with a content creator to promote Capone. So, the Delgado Inferno Caselli books, she released those as an indie author and then got a trad deal. So, Capone, the trad release, those books are coming out now. So, they were promoting that book. And in doing so, the content creator, misrepresented the book. So the way that she described the book, the type of keywords that she used to describe the book, that isn't an accurate representation of the book. So she said the book was a mafia romance, enemies to lovers, and Capone never gave that. It never gave that. Okay, and then Jaquel slid in on socials and was like, "Yeah, Capone is not a mafia romance," So she even came in and corrected, like, "Nah, that's not it." Okay, so the internet went up. The internet went up. They confronted the creator, like called her out for promoting a book incorrectly and promoting a book that she obviously hadn't read. And then also calling Podium out for how they represented Jaquel's book. So the content creator said, I'm just reading the information that they gave to me. But then, it comes out that she had actually read the book. So people were like, well, if you read the book, why didn't you push back and let them know that the script they gave you doesn't represent the book well? So it's just been a lot of chatter and a lot of conversation. So the content creator did issue an apology and took accountability for what happened. Podium was a little delayed in their response to the situation. So she was the one that was really facing the bulk of the backlash for a few days before Podium released a statement. And then, the girlies got in a tussle about that because when they issued their apology and released their statement, they didn't apologize to the author at all. So this entire situation really just brought up some conversation about the racism in the publishing industry, dropping reviews for books that you didn't actually read, not feeling comfortable pushing back on racism and things like that in exchange for a check and in exchange for money and compromising your morals for the sake of content. And the other conversation is these companies are not intentionally investing in the creator community of the books. So Jaquel, she already has a fan base. And some of her fans, people who already read and actively review her books, are also in Podium's influencer program because those creators came out and spoke out about how they weren't asked to do this opportunity. So, but I think at the core of this situation is that Podium was trying to use this particular content creator to promote Jaquel's books to a new audience. And they were using, different terminologies and keywords and things to appeal to that type of audience to get them interested in reading Capone. The issue with that is that when you misrepresent the books and you list tropes and you list things that aren't actually an accurate representation of the book, you then have readers who are reading the book expecting one thing and getting another. And then that ends up negatively impacting reviews because they end up negatively reviewing the book because it didn't live up to expectations, but they went into the book expecting one thing and getting another. This came up in my conversation with author Monique Good. So, her interview, we talked about this because it happened to her. So, if you want to check out that interview, that's episode 40, Fubu. So her and I were talking about how her book, The Cure of Us, it's a vampire urban fiction romance. But she said that a content creator added her book on a list for like spooky season and was promoting it as a vampire spooky season type of read. Yes, the book has vampires, but it's more of an urban fiction than like a cozy spooky season type of vampire story, because instead of dealing drugs, and trapping drugs, the vampires are selling blood. They're dealing blood. So it does have like these urban fiction elements. They definitely use profanity, and the book is blackety black black. Okay, so you know, there are people who are well intentioned, and but they may not have actually read the book to know if the way that they're describing it, the tropes that they're promoting in affiliation with the book, if that's actually accurate because they haven't read the book. A lot of content creators are just trying to use their platform to help amplify authors and amplify books, and they might not have read the book. So this happens often, but she mentioned how, some people were reading her book and they were upset because it wasn't the type of vampire story that they were expecting, because it was recommended as a spooky season read. So, I mean, it could still be considered a spooky season read because, it does have vampires in it, but it's that urban fiction element. So, you know, now that the content creator has apologized and Podium has apologized, I hope that everyone can learn from this situation. But to be in the public eye, like, you have a responsibility with your platform, and you got to know who to play with. Jaquel's fans do not play. They gonna step behind Miss Author Lady. Okay, people, her fans are going to step up. They're going to push back. They're going to really have her back. So you got to know who you could play with. And you cannot play with Jaquel's fans like that. Okay, she really has built a community. I am in said community. Okay. No, you gotta know who to play with. She low key got the book beehive. Okay. So no, they not gonna let you misrepresent her. They're not gonna let you talk about her books inaccurately. Someone's going to check you because her fans are educated and loyal. Okay. So anywho, this is just a learning lesson for everybody, okay? But I was gobbling that up, trying to catch up and read all the posts and find out what's going on, okay? But I hope that content creator is doing okay, because I've never been on the receiving end of that type of backlash on the internet, you know? And at the end of the day, we're all human. And I know that that probably had an impact on her mental health and just her overall well-being. So, you know, this internet shit is internet shit. Okay? So if you need to take a break, boo, log off. Okay, log off. But Podium, no, they wrong for leaving her out there to be taking the brunt of that backlash. They took way too long to issue an apology and left that girl hanging like that. But, you know, not my monkey, not my circus. So I'm going to just hope and pray for the best and that everything resolves itself. But anyway, y'all, every day there's a little book drama. Okay, I never knew that this community, it would always be something going on, something to yap about. But enough about that. Back to the books. So if you are not caught up on our August book picks, I suggest you exit stage left. Okay? This is your moment to go ahead and exit stage left, because this episode will contain spoilers. So proceed with caution. All right, so let's talk about it. A Queen's Paradise. What the fuck is wrong with Carmen? I feel like Aniko, she let that woman, well, I guess she ended up getting the last laugh. Well, this kind of morbid, but you know, yeah, her dying during labor, if that ain't some karma, if that ain't some karma. And then for the husband to end up adopting her kid and naming the baby Nico, that ending, the plot twist on that was crazy. So the entire time that I was reading the book, I just knew I had the story figured out. I was like, I already know what's finna happen. The friend is probably sleeping with her man, and that's probably his baby, because Aniko can't have kids. Right? So I just knew. I knew how this story was going. Okay. I'm like, oh, this is predictable. I already know what's happening. Okay. In no reality did I think that this man wasn't cheating on his wife. How, sir? That entire time you weren't cheating on her? You weren't sleeping with the friend? So I feel like he's a dumbass. So if you know that she's suspecting that you're cheating on her and all of this is happening, why wouldn't he fight harder to keep his wife? But honestly, I think Aniko was just gay. I don't think she wanted that man. Because once Queen entered the conversation, Aniko was like, husband who? Okay. She had a few moments there where she was a little conflicted about the situation, but nah, Queen had her turned inside out. Okay. From the moment she met that lady. So, and the way that she talked about her husband and the way that she like described her feelings, I was like, I think she's just gay. But I don't want to erase her bisexuality, so she might just be bisexual, but the way that she talked about her husband, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if she really like him for real. Okay? But I'm curious to see where this story is going to go in the sequel. So I told y'all I got approved for that arc. So I cannot wait to read it and figure out what's going on now that we know. But I feel like if I don't see a body, then how do I know somebody's really dead? Because she didn't go to the funeral or she didn't see Carmen's body, I don't know if Carmen is really dead because now we just going off the information he said. And and now he's raising the kid. I still have suspicions. It still is giving weird. Okay? But for the woman to be scheming like that trying to steal her best friend's husband, that was really diabolical. Really diabolical. That whole thing was crazy cuz I really did think that he was cheating on her with the friend. It never gave that he was being faithful. Never. But I feel like if you really want something and you know that you're not doing anything wrong, I just feel like he didn't do enough to try to fight for her, to try to save their marriage. He was just all talk. I didn't really see it. But something I am taking away, I did like their relationship commandments. I've been talking to my wife about it. I'm like, ooh, I like that idea, having a list of commandments. When we read Love and Sports Ball by Mika James, one of the characters in that book, she had like a list of things that she wanted to happen in relationships. And I don't know, that made me think about the relationship contracts and relationship agreements that Sheldon writes on Big Bang Theory. I don't know if any of y'all watch Big Bang Theory, but it is one of me and my wife's favorite shows. Okay, it's very much our comfort show, and we watch Big Bang Theory often. But that is something that I always think about how Sheldon had his roommate agreement and had that relationship contract with Amy. So it's just something I always think about. But that's what this made me think about. Like, maybe we should come up with something like that. But ain't no hall passes, babe. We don't do that around here. Ain't no hall passes. Fuck you talking about. And I don't know why, men. Let me not say that. I was about to say I don't know why men don't feel threatened by women, but they do. The men do be insecure and feel threatened by women, but they feel threatened by some women. The more masculine presenting women, I feel like that really be triggering some men's insecurity because I've seen it with my own eyes. Okay, but they don't really be taking women seriously. Like, sir, she will take your girl, she will take your wife, and Queen proved that. Okay, the way Queen swooped in and took that man's wife. But like I said, I just never got the impression that he really wanted to be with Aniko for real. Why was he going over to the friend's house to help her with things without telling his wife? Like the boundaries were loose all along. That's why it never gave me the impression that he wasn't cheating on her with Carmen. Because why would you be over there doing things around the house and not tell your wife? And that's her friend. Like, in what reality is that okay? So, all of that was weird as shit. Okay? So weird. But yeah, I need to see where this story gonna go. I just feel like I left the story with a lot of questions and unresolved issues because we didn't see a body. So I don't know if Carmen's really dead. And maybe that is his son. Maybe he really was cheating. I don't know. A part of me just refuses to believe that this man was faithful to Aniko because I just, but we read it. Carmen was scheming with her friends to convince Aniko that her husband was cheating on her so that they would get a divorce and she could steal him. And that was a crazy ass plot. And a lot of people in real life have friends that are snakes in the grass and they don't know. Friend out here, your number one hater, scheming on you. And that was just crazy. So, anyway, yeah, that book was so good to me. I am learning through this venture, I'm getting more clarity on the type of books that I enjoy. And I will say that because I've been reading a lot more urban fiction lately, it's making it hard to go from reading those type of books to some of these really cozy, sweet, sapphic romances. I need some drama in my books, y'all. It's really getting to the point where if it's not any drama, if it's not any mess, it's just not hooking me. And a book could be written so well. Like no typos, it's got great prose, good character development, but if it doesn't have some type of drama, it's just not hooking me. So I'm really starting to just learn more about what type of stories I like and what I gravitate towards. With that, I enjoyed Tethered. I did. I just need a little bit more drama. But, Dominic was an asshole, but we didn't see the full scope of his assholery until towards the end of the book, till about like 80% into the book when he resurfaced. I think what I liked about Tethered is that it's a science fiction book. And I really like that representation. I also like the disability representation in the book. So I am somebody who has an invisible illness or like a chronic disorder, and seeing characters deal with those type of things in the books, I just feel really seen on the page. So there aren't a lot of books that I've read that have like disability rep or like those type of things, but every time I see it in a book, I just really enjoy it. And I think that this book did it really well with the condition that Marlowe is dealing with. But I just love that it's in space and that they're on a spaceship. I don't know, it reminds me of like Guardians of the Galaxy or something. I love a good space themed movie and like movies about first contact and things like that. So, having a sapphic romance that's set in space is like representation that I didn't know that I needed. So it's really gotten me wanting to read more books like that. I just need a little bit more drama. But it was really good and I enjoyed it. And like I told you, I love the narrator for the audiobook. And I enjoy doing like the immersive read for it. So, you know, both books to me, I gave them really high ratings. But with Tethered, I'm not a huge fan of children in books because I'm child free by choice. So sometimes I can't relate to the characters when it's these heavy, like, mommy tropes. I do love a good found family. So Tethered to me had a really good found family with the ship crew. And I love that. So I'm saying all this to say I usually don't enjoy books that have children in them, but I liked Harvey. So Marlowe's son seems like he is the cutest. And apparently, he got superpowers because every adult that he meets, he gets them wrapped around his finger. And he could make me someone who doesn't really enjoy having children in my books. I enjoyed him. Okay. So it's a handful of books that I'm like, oh, I just love the children. They're so funny. And I would love to have a book where they're grown and we can see like how they developed as they gotten older. But that's how I feel about Harvey. Like, is he going to end up being a sociopath like his daddy? But to find out that Dominic did all of this is because he want his family back, sir. If that's what you want, if that was the end goal, this was the complete wrong way to go about achieving that. You did all of this, wreaked all this havoc because you want your family back, because you still in love with Marlowe. And I don't think that he's actually in love with her. This man views them as possessions. But yeah, to abduct the son. How was he doing all of this to try to get his family back? And he abducted the son. What was he planning on happening? You know, he didn't know that Marlo was going to sneak on that ship. Was he planning to go and get her? Was he hoping that if he took Harvey, that would force her to have to come to him? I still don't understand what was he trying to achieve by kidnapping his own son. Why did he think that that would actually get him the girl? That was weird and crazy. Meanwhile, this man got a whole girlfriend. So you doing all of this to manipulate your ex-wife, using your kid as a pawn, and you got a whole girlfriend. Dominic needs help. He needs therapy. Okay, and I feel bad for the new kid. So he went and got married and just had a baby with a new girl. And are we supposed to just believe that he's magically a better person at the end of the book? I don't believe it. And I think Marlowe's right. He probably did all of this just to get his family back because now V wants to meet his half sister, and the brother then came back into the fold. But the level of manipulation that we've seen from Dominic throughout that entire book, I just can't believe that he did all of that because he wanted his family back. So strange. Some people are out here just in Delulu land and don't understand the consequences of their actions, because now, Marlo don't ever want to talk to him again. Like, at least before, she was trying to co-parent with you in some aspects. Now she want to go no contact. Like, you pushed her the furthest away. Okay? But I like Marlo and Tanissara. Okay? Tanny. The captain. They were cute. I liked them. All right? I was here for it. When he was like, "Did you sleep with the captain?" Why you want to know, sir? What you gonna do? We not even together. Why are you in my business like this? Yes, I fucked her all up and through that ship. Now what? Girl, why you asking me all this? Okay. But both of these books, A Queen's Paradise and Tether, are like bisexuality rep. And they were both very good. But I like lesbians in my books. I do have a bias. I prefer lesbians in my books, but as long as it's got a woman loving woman relationship, I'm going to read it. But these men be getting on my nerve in the books. They really do. And they be having entirely too much page time for me because they stupid. Both of the men in these books got on my nerve. Okay, I'm like, can we just focus on the relationship with the women? Why they got to keep getting page time? Okay, I was getting irritated, especially with Aniko's husband. I hated when his ass was being talked about in the book. Take me back to her and Queen. Okay, I do not care about this man. And then now, that was a plot twist too. For him and Queen to be siblings. What y'all think about that one? That was crazy. That he's the brother? Girl. So he's not going to go anywhere now. So she's going to have to deal with him and Queen. I wonder if this story finna take a why choose turn. But I didn't get the impression that she wanted him. I really didn't. But to be so in love with her to name the kid after her, but that's not how he was acting. I feel like he should have put up more fight if he was really trying to keep his wife. He ain't fight for her at all. Like, what was going on? Just poor communication all around. But yeah, she going to have to deal with him now because that's Queen's brother. That's crazy. That was another plot twist reveal that had me gagged. Okay, so Carmen, the friend, was scheming and conniving, trying to steal her friend's husband. The husband was not cheating on Aniko with Carmen. And now him and Aniko's new wife, they're siblings. That was a lot of plot twists. Okay, a lot of plot twists. And then Carmen died during childbirth. So she did all that conniving shit and then died? Supposedly. Allegedly. That's the word. Allegedly. Because if I didn't see the body in the book, it didn't happen. So I need to see a body. I don't be believing these people are dead. Because one thing these authors like to do is make you think somebody is dead and they are not. Okay, so until I see a body, I don't believe it. Okay, but I need more stories set in outer space with black lesbian women. That's what I want. She done scratched the itch I didn't know I had, okay? Like when Marlo was like geeking out because she's trying to help fix the ship, but she's in space, and she like, oh my God, I'm like in space right now. I felt that euphoria too on the page, like, cause I would be geeking out being on a spaceship and being able to see those stars and being in space like that and travel to other planets. And, I just would want to experience that. It's been so much conversation recently about aliens. And at this point, y'all telling me that they real. NASA finally came out. The government finally came out and confirmed that the aliens are real. I just want to see it with my own eyes. But like I said, this book scratched an itch. So TJ Williams has another book called Shades of Onyx. That's a Medusa retelling. So I'm going to be checking that book out soon. And then I just, like I said, got approved for the art for Queen's Ruin. It's a couple of arcs I applied to. So I'm also going to be reading Demon for a Night by KJ Bradford. So I saw her posting about that book on Threads, and everything that she said about the book was right up my alley. But yeah, I am so excited to transition into Sapphic September and just read a lot of Sapphic books with y'all. Okay, so all September long, I will be dropping book recs. We will be reading books together. We also have the Book Lovers Fest happening in September. So I think it's going to be a good time. As you all know, my podcast turns 1 years old this month on August 30th. As we're wrapping up my anniversary month, I just want to really take a moment to thank you all for supporting me and making my first season of this podcast such a success. Thank you for every listen, every stream, every share, every like, every comment. I have two author interviews that are dropping next week to wrap up the month of August. So, my interview with Erica Alexander is going to be dropping, and then my interview with Latoya Hankins. So, stay tuned for Sapphic September because we'll have a month of just special content and really celebrating season one of the Book Lovers Club. Thank you for tuning in to the Book Lovers Club. If you love today's episode, make sure you subscribe so you never miss a chapter. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review because those reviews help other lovers find us. So if you want to keep this conversation going, please join me on Instagram or hop on over to Fable to join the virtual book club. And until next time, remember, the stories we read can help us write the love lives of our dreams. See you next Sapphic Saturday.